aloha.
Aloha, mahalo, and all the things.
Oh, mahalo. I forgot that word. Here we are. So I am going to start with our art today because it is so fantastic and I'm so excited to share about it. If you're listening on the pod only, you might want to jump over to YouTube to check this one out. But this piece of art is by Kevin Chupik. And what he does is he takes sort of Western imagery and he marries it with vintage modernity. And it just is sort of this really cool thing. This is actually going to go in a client's house. And we like triple framed it and we put on conservation glass. So it's just extra rad.
It's just rad.
Just wanted to showcase this artist. Fantastic.
And the funny thing is, and we were just discussing this, so we, when we film, we never discuss what we're wearing. We really don't discuss anything, what pictures we're bringing at all. And the flowers come and we kind of do our own flowers and stuff. And so the fact that it sort of everything tied in for this was just.
It's a moment.
It's a moment.
It's a moment. And you
I just
probably
want to be her.
need to see it.
I just want to be her. So please jump on YouTube to see her. The woman. Yeah.
Love.
He's fabulous too.
So wins. What you got?
Oh, gosh, so good. So a project is about to be completed. It's a big one. It's one of those that turned, you just pulled one thread and it went unraveled. And so started off to just be like, some tile and maybe some paint and a few things. And so I just I can do totally GC that one because it's not like I don't. Now it's
Did you say it's like 7,000 square feet hugeness?
Yes. And so things just kept changing and, we went from So, but we're close. Like family gets to move in 2 weeks.
Can't wait to see the photos.
It has been, but it's one of those where, So the win is, it's all sort of the logistics of the monkey bearing, that we have. It's all coming together and it's just so beautiful.
And you get to put that monkey to bed in a few
that
weeks.
Monkey need to go to bed.
Night, monkey.
Because these bags are not.
Not it.
Yeah, so that's my win. It's
awesome.
Almost, we're there. So
that
fun.
Is awesome. My win is also work related today, and that is we did a presentation yesterday on a massive gut job remodel in Jamaica Beach.
Yes.
And Reagan is the lead on that one, and she put her heart and soul into this. It was kind of her vibe. And the clients came in yesterday and they actually signed the full contract at the table. And then they went to lunch and they wired the first payment. They're like 100% approved. We want everything because we were all prepared. If they were like, we want to reduce this by X number of dollars, the few places that we felt like they could cut if they wanted to.
Right.
And they're like, we're cutting nothing. And I don't know that's only happened like 3 or 4 times in my career where they went full Monty. So
and I have a moment and cry. I have not had one of those.
Yes, you have.
Not like that. No, that is just, I'm just kidding. But happy tears, that exists.
Thank you.
That exists out there. But you
I was most excited for Reagan.
Yeah.
Because, she was working weekends and evenings, finding the perfect pieces. So
it showed.
And it
right?
showed. It's
she
one of
brought the
those.
wow.
It's one of those. So
that's a good win.
One of those. Well, welcome back to Reframing, where we open the kimono, we let you see behind the scenes, we talk about the real life of interior design, and sometimes it's not all that pretty. I'm Rainey.
And I'm Casey. And we're here today to just sort of flip the script a little bit on what people might think we do all the time or what it looks like in the pretty prints and magazines and TV and sort of the behind the scenes that we really get to deal with most of the time. Somebody once said, as a designer, especially if you're the principal owner, you only do 10% of design in your day. 10%. So
hard
it's
to believe.
All the other things. So today we're going to talk about our content.
What are we talking about?
Rogue clients. I think that one hit a nerve with a lot of people. So we're going to really kind of dive into some experiences that we've had and just share, not to call anybody out.
Yes. We touched on this in an earlier pod and said we would come back and dive into this. And sort of the fine line for Casey and I is that we want to tell the listeners and the viewers the real. But we don't want to out clients that have paid us good money and that we really wanted to be a blessing to them and give them an amazing home. But like in every industry, sometimes it doesn't go according to plan with the client.
And when that happens is when you get the contract up on your documents and you change things, because it is typically because we have not handled something in the contract or in the communication on the front end, which we try and talk about as much as possible here. But and so it does end up falling on us, but it does happen and it's not fun. So.
It is not fun. So we're going to dive into this topic and let you know our experiences. Okay, so the whole business of rogue clients.
You even have a scared look on your face because
I know.
like you're like,
I know.
Because it's also like you're saying, we don't want to out anybody. This is not the shame train. This isn't about that.
We don't have time for that.
But it's very real. And there's been times I've pulled into my driveway, not many. One in particular that I pulled in, and while I was pulling in, Matt was standing with a glass of wine in the driveway.
Best husband moment ever.
It was so special. Yeah. But I had called in tears from a client's house on my way home. And he heard the cry, and he came running.
Yeah.
Because it will bring us to our knees. It will.
Because we do what we do to really serve people and make an amazing positive impact on their lives. And as human behavior and human experiences happen, sometimes it just doesn't work. And I think in 25, almost 26 years, I have 3 experiences that come to the top of mind. And I think it's important that we talk about these things, because when it happens to baby designers or even experienced designers, or maybe your client and you don't know what went wrong, it's important that we talk about it.
It's huge. And Rainey and I got to, just a sidebar, but we both had some awesome younger designers shadow us last week, and we had to do something together. So they met, but we asked them, what do you guys want to hear about? And they sort of wanted to hear about these moments because it's scary, and you don't know, and you think you might be the only one who really screwed something up. And
right. So if you are one of those and you're dealing with it and you want to talk to us about it, please reach out. Yeah. Not that we have any great advice, except for always just do the right thing.
We'll meet you on your driveway with a glass
of wine. Yeah, just give us your address. We've got you. Or maybe even the client. We've got you too.
Yeah, we've got you too. Because it can definitely go both ways. And so it's a relationship.
And you don't even know where it went wrong, where it went off the rails sometimes. So one of the rogue clients that comes to mind for me is sometimes we have clients and there might be something going on in the relationship with the people at the house, and you, between the partners, and you bear the brunt of that. And I don't think in this case it was intentional. I just think it was maybe part of the way that they work.
Right.
And so when you're creating a home for 2 people to make a life, and that things can be lost in translation. That's probably how I should say that. But decisions would be made on site during the day with one of the partners there. And we would do that because that's what you do. And then the other partner wouldn't like it. And partner A would say, well, I never said that. So we had to start documenting on site and get on site sign-offs for very small things. And we had to really, that is where though, because that was really on us after the first time. The first time it was like, oh, that's a little weird. When it happened the second time, it's on us. So that is where we started leaving sites and going back to the studio, and we would do a follow-up email. And it would go to all 3, 4, however many people were involved in the project.
Right.
And we would do follow-up and just say, if anything in here is incorrect or if we misunderstood something, please let us know. Right. And so that's what we do, though, right? Mm-hmm. We learn and we change how we do things. Mm-hmm. And so that was a really tough rogue client lesson.
So long process with them?
Much longer than it should have been.
Because of this back and forth. Mm-hmm. And so when you come back to the site after that first or second time of, I don't know when that, the one client A saying that, do they acknowledge it?
No.
Oh.
No. Oh. And even while it was going on, it was it just wasn't, it wasn't a best moment. It wasn't a best moment for anybody there.
Got you.
And we all just sort of let it slide, and we had to internally clean it up and make sure we could get to the end of the project. And so that's how we dealt with it. And then it became part of our process. Right. But it was very, very, very difficult. Because it sort of puts a little stain on the project, and that's the first, a little shit stain. And that's the first client that comes to mind. We have been so lucky. We have had probably 100. I don't even know how many clients over the year, maybe even more than that it just, so much respect and so much kindness and so much goodness and so much. And again, I can't say this was an intentional.
Right.
I just think sometimes, we're stuck in a moment and we can't get out of it. The famous lyrics. And I think we just were pulled into that tidal wave.
Right. Their dynamic got into yours. And I think that is such an interesting moment of just, we really are like therapy. I mean, people say it all the time, but because we know all the ins and outs of a home.
Yeah.
In the meetings, we get to the nitty gritty of how people live and how they communicate with each other. And so one thing I've tried really hard, and I think you're really good about, I really don't talk about the couple dynamic with,
right.
It's just, it really almost is like therapy, and you don't share that stuff. Right. But it's mind-boggling, some of the fights or the things where you witness. And there's one that comes to mind that I pulled out of the project because of the volatility and the meanness from one spouse to another. And it was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. And so having not grown up in an environment like that or be in one, it's really uncomfortable, right? And but you do see how people
and it affects you.
It does, because you don't trust what they're saying, because you just watched them attack their spouse. And if they're attacking a spouse, like, were they coming after you? And ultimately, they will. I'm not saying, I feel like I said ultimately 89 times last time. I need to take that word out of my vocabulary. It's big. But that is a hard thing for us, because we are people pleasers, and we want it all to go well.
And we are on the inside.
It feels like a slap when you sort of are like, wait, what? Was that not what was said on the job site? I could have sworn that we all agreed on that. And then, but you realize that's not happening at the home. That's not okay for them to change something, which is so sad. It's not easy. So then, but it did change your processes a little bit.
It does change your processes. And I think that one of the things that is important that I've learned, and I know that you've learned this in your business too, because we've talked about it, and that is, you are responsible for guiding the client. You are the guide. And if something's going sideways, we have the responsibility to get it right. And if we can't, we might have to part ways, like what you said. And one of the things that I'm proud about with our designer friend group is we've all had some tough experiences, but we are really good about not outing our clients. Like, nobody is like, well, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. We don't talk about people like that. And
it's almost like everybody signed NDAs or something in the best possible way. You just don't talk,
but
names it's just
we just don't.
An experience happened, and we share that because I think we have to. We
get advice.
We've got to get advice.
Yeah.
But we don't out clients, because that's not. And sometimes we're not seeing clients in their best.
100%.
This is such a stressful time, and I try and we try and say how exciting it is, and it's so fun, and it's not fun for people sometimes. And the money thing, which we've talked about, is always a little bit sticky.
Yeah.
So we get people in their worst spaces, and a lot of times things are happening behind the scenes that we still don't know about.
That's it.
And so it's just like they might have gotten fired during the process, or somebody's gotten ill, or a family member sick, or they just are not doing well as a couple. So yeah, we can.
Or maybe they're in menopause and they don't know
menopause,
it.
They're hot and they forget stuff.
That's it.
And then she forgot that she told you yes to that.
Yeah.
No.
So and then we're going to make sure it just doesn't happen again.
So, and I know there are a few of them, but there are enough, at least I feel like, moments where the rogue client, you get the text that they are so excited and they're at Home Depot on a Saturday, and can we get this plumbing or something, or we've decided to buy this. And again, where it's one of those moments of, oh God, that's not in the contract. That will be on Monday morning, but please don't go.
You're not going to go shop for your own things after you've engaged me. Which there's also a side comment about that, right? They're going on on a vacation and they find a piece of art that they're excited about and they want to know if a piece of art is going to work, please send that to me.
Yes.
That is far different than I bought these 87 things and I need you to work them into my primary bedroom. And you're like, I don't even know.
I don't know when,
like, makes my eye twitch, right?
It does, because it happens, and because they're excited. So they're
right.
It's sort of that.
And it's their home.
It's their home. So they should get to go shopping for it. But it does throw a wrench in how the rest of the stuff goes. And there have been a couple over the years that I really have, because Matt has said this about our kids a little bit, and it kind of equates to the clients sometimes, where you just feel like you're being pulled behind a water ski, behind a ski boat, right? And you're just like hitting wakes and you're like
hanging on.
Fun, and then you're just hanging on for dear life. And sometimes you just have to let it go. And I have let go on a couple and just, I'm like, oh, I am no longer in this rodeo with them.
And then go, I'm just not going to photograph this project, right? Because this is not
This is not mine.
This is not my work, but this is their home, and so you have to sort of navigate that.
Yes.
But our contract has changed over the years to make that a little tighter, because I feel like it's, if you go to an expensive restaurant and you order the chef special, but you go back in the kitchen and you pull, the ingredients out of your purse and you're like, I want you to make that meal, but I want you to use these ingredients. And so at some point you just can't. And it's not being mean, ugly, any of those things. You just can't.
You just can't make it work with what they thought.
Yeah, we will get this project done, but I won't photograph it because it's not my work. And so,
have you had somebody go off on you or yell at you or anything happen to where that's?
I've never had a yeller. I've never had a yeller. I know that you had a yeller one time.
Mariana was with me once it will take you back. Because this was a unicorn client, not a rogue client, a unicorn one.
Yeah. And I think when you shared that experience with me, I was so shocked. I was just shocked. I think when I was so offended and so upset by that whole thing. Was that your most rogue client? Or it wasn't a rogue.
Even rogue.
It just
that was
weird.
Just the most volatile. It just went. But I think in that was one of those circumstances where I realized money really was an issue for them at that moment.
Became a stressor.
We were the easiest target, and just lost it. And thank goodness, Matt was in the car once and kind of heard part of it, although he was high as a kite, because I was taking him to the dentist to get some dental work, and he just popped that little pill that they say take 20 minutes before you come in. So he's sort of out. And but he got enough to say, oh, okay. But yeah. So anyways,
we're not doing
that. But so there's, we're just, again, we are in the most intimate time that we're spending people's money, and we're in their homes. And so we get that. But no, I think the memory that comes up the most is, and it was because it was a kind of a friend, and we were doing a trade. Never again.
Oh, I'm going to do this for you and you're going to do this for me. Trade.
Yeah. Like your collateral for my, so I knew it wasn't a good idea, but I had been wanting to do this kitchen for 4 years. Didn't listen to my gut, but I'd wanted to do this kitchen for years because it just, and great people. I loved them, and they were good friends, and thought it'd be so fun. And so, but they stopped having me to come out for stuff and that's when it was still hourly. So it was still, even though it was trade, it was still hourly. So things went totally different on the design, because husband decided, why don't we do X, Y, Z? And it just kept, because they became designers in the midst of it. Apparently they went to school in that 2 weeks and became professionals. So it just went to
sideways.
Hell. Absolutely sideways. And it bums me out to this day, because the design was beautiful, the colors were beautiful, the backs, everything was gorgeous, and just elements of it, cabinetry that just didn't, they thought they could fix, and so then
styles are wrong,
is on this side of the window, and then you've got 7 inches on those things where you're just like, oh God, why nobody got this? So, but again, rogue, they think they're professionals at that point, because they've had a couple meetings. So you just,
I was going to ask about that. Have you ever had a client that became a professional during the process?
Yeah. And that's where it's really tricky, right? Or if they just know just barely enough to get them in trouble, and so they don't inquire, and then you do, and that's again where you just go, oh my gosh, I can't reel this in. I've completely lost the thread.
Yeah. The train has left the station.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's on me. Every time I look back, and it's that like, are you the problem or this? Be the solution, not the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find where you stopped handling it for them, or how they felt.
So we recently had an experience, and we knew a client's budget. They wanted to do a massive remodel and furniture and the whole thing. And we knew what the top number was. This project was a little different for us in location, materials that had to be used, all sorts of things. And we were doing a ton of work on the exterior, which we don't typically do. But this was a repeat client from 13 years ago, have a great relationship with them. And the numbers just started escalating. And we knew we had a big presentation and design meeting coming up with them, and we were out of bounds. They had already approved the design and all the things, but we had underestimated what these other numbers were going to be. So we're sitting around as a firm saying, okay, how are we going to handle this? Because there's only two ways to handle it. You go into the live design meeting and you go, here's the design and here's what it's going to cost, and you blow them out of the water. Or you know that number and you go ahead and take things out of the design so that you can hit that number, and you say, here's what we had to take out to hit your number, both of which could go really wrong. Right. And so I made the decision, and we've talked about this before, Casey. We talk about it with our friends, and I immediately thought to myself, pick up the damn phone. So I got up from the meeting table, went to the phone, and I called the client, and I said, here's the thing. I know what you told us. I know you love the design and approved it. We're going over, and I want our meeting to be excellent and to be full of life. And so do you want me to meet your number, or do you want to know what the number is going to be for the design? And she said to me, first of all, I'm not going to be mad. I would never be mad because that was my fear. She said, but what's the number looking like? And I told her, and she goes, we kind of thought that we could be there, and we've already, everybody has their financial planner, right? Said, worst case scenario, we're thinking this, and you're under the worst, not by much, but you're under the worst case scenario.
Don't go crazy.
Right. And so we want to see the real in that meeting. And so after that meeting, they ended up doing the whole project. But the husband pulled me aside and he said, I want you to know that I am so thankful that you called us before the weekend so that we could digest what it was we were walking into, and you gave us the choice whether to move forward in that capacity or to go ahead and rein it in. But if you feel like things are going in a rogue place, whether it's pricing or it's whatever, pick up the phone and talk to people, because they're human beings. Yeah. And I think a lot of times that communication, not email, can really sort of put everybody at ease.
Right.
I mean, have you found that to be true
Absolutely.
for you?
Yes. Once you have the conversation, I mean, sometimes it goes south. Like on this particular one that I just mentioned.
No saving it. Yeah. And that happens.
It happened. And that was rough. And, so, but again, then it's true colors though. I'm like, okay, so we weren't that close. I'm trying to save more than just the friendship. The project. But again, wouldn't trade picking up the phone and I went and did the sit down and the whole thing. Cause
you cleaned it. You left it the right way.
Yeah, you're like,
I think that's a big lesson.
I can't not have this, but that's a really good point about picking up the phone before that meeting kind of thing, because sometimes we do wonder.
Yeah.
Am I, or even my biggest thing, I just, that insecurity of never wanting to let people down. So It's like before a big presentation meeting, especially, I've had the thought of like, okay, if I don't feel like I'm bringing what I want to bring to this, should I postpone this meeting? But I also am very respectful of people's time, right?
Yeah,
we gave them this, and so if people have to take out of their day, so I end up somehow rallying. It's almost like I need less time sometimes because that pressure. But
that
the phone
sparks
call,
creativity in you.
It does. I kind of love that a little bit. Sometimes too much time is too much time. But it is that uncomfortable moment of letting somebody know I may have shit the bed and overcommitted. What somebody called it a time optimist. If so, I was a little bit too optimistic about getting this whole presentation together. So I can either do X, Y, or Z, you know?
So you picked up the phone.
Yeah.
And that just kind of kept
Just
that.
lets people, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. I actually needed another week. I didn't want to reschedule, but, or, you know, yeah, show us what you've got. Or I just realize in myself, I'm just going to dig deep because I won't ever change an appointment
if you don't have to.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a project where you're going to do the whole specifications, hard surfaces, and then the interiors, and you get through the specifications and the client either runs out of money or runs out of money that they want to spend, or becomes check writing weary, we call it, and they decide not to do the interiors at all, or not do them fully, and that sort of screws the whole project? Have you had that happen?
Yes. Are you kidding? I wish I could say it was only a few, but so many clients get to that point. And a lot of times the contractors take it, or the builder. It's almost inevitably that's why. The budget has just been blown on all the overages that they weren't expecting. And so they have to move back in with their IKEA furniture that they got in college, and they're so bummed. Those damn bar stools that are just hideous, you know? And it sucks for us too, because we wanted to do the whole thing. It's not even the money part of it at that point.
Nope.
It's really just, we had the vision, so everything that was chosen doesn't get to see the day. And you just don't want a client to have to walk into their beautiful new home with their old Chigat de la Femme, you know? So have you had many?
We're doing it right now. We have a project right now, huge project in another state, and the house went from 2,500 square feet to like 6,000-ish. All on the client.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't part of any of that. And the builder just started building, and they thought the price tag was going to be something, and it has doubled. And so we'll see what the client decides to do. The truth is there's limited amounts of money that you can want to, your financial planner will allow you to spend. And when that comes to an end, that comes to an end. And when you're in the middle of building a house, the train is on the track and it's barreling down. You can't stop that. Right. And so we all understand that, but this is the way I talk to the client. I understand the train's going down the track and you can't stop it. This is where we are. And I'll help you get to whatever end you need to get to, but we just have some decisions to make. And there's no shame. There's no, I'm not mad. I'm sad that client won't get to experience the outcome that they so desperately wanted. And it should have been reined in a long time before, but it's a builder thing. But I don't think the builder's being unreasonable or unfair. The size of the project just got big.
Right.
Yeah.
And every builder handles those things differently.
That's right.
And some, one that I working with on a project right now, and I do appreciate every other week he calls a meeting, and he has those change orders ready, and he explains exactly why, and the client knows they can sign off or not. But others will just kind of take I guess, if we could raise the ceiling, if that's an option, I can do that. Okay, well, if you could go up.
And on the final invoice,
and
it's
then they get it at the end,
yeah.
and they're like, wait, what? I would have loved to have known that. Yeah. So it's, again, communication. But
do you help with that communication if you think that will be an issue?
Yes.
Do you say, can we go ahead and talk about the cost of this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And a couple builders, one in particular, Mariana's uncle, actually, he and I have worked together on so many projects that he now knows, because I was like, do not give them a bid for a $4 or $5 tile. Wait, I will tell you what we have already selected so you can put that in and price out accordingly, because I don't want them coming and, having this humongous overage because they weren't expecting something that the builder has put in. Yep. And everybody's just got that blanket contract. And we're still working with builders who still have that they've had for 20 years. Yep. And in their eyes, and I'm not shitting on them, but they're like, well, it's just a number. And then we built. But the client doesn't know that.
The client doesn't know that.
So,
which is why the designer is we should do a whole pod on allowances.
For the builder to understand, if you don't have the designer early enough, let your client know at least these numbers are placeholders, but these are going to most likely change. They're
going up.
placeholders. Most women don't say that. The client doesn't know, so they see this huge number and think, well, God, that's got to take care of everything. And it doesn't.
And it doesn't. No.
And it's hard too, because during the process, things do come up and things do change. And
That's right.
like we talked about in the last episode, this one, should have just been paint some hardware, and, now it's a full on deal, which is great. But it's like, but I will say, I just had the experience at this particular house, and we were talking about the bathroom, and I go, I threw out a number and I felt really good about that because I'm pretty good about where we're doing. And the numbers have come back a lot higher. And I have had to ask the trades, and I will never go back to a trade and ask them to lower their price because I don't like it when it happens to me. But I did ask, has something changed since the last house? Because these numbers are very different labor-wise. And everybody has gone up considerably.
Yeah.
In like a month.
That happens. That
was a shocker.
Happens.
So I had to go back and say,
do you think it's because
higher.
People are worried that maybe things are going to slow down because of tariffs or other things that are
That's such a good question.
potentially affecting our economy? Because that recently happened to us with the trade, and we had to sit down and talk through it, and that was sort of a concern. But it's also our job to protect our client, right? If it's out of line, we know that they don't know that.
Yes.
And so we can say, this is higher than we see.
And so do we want to go back and look for another trade? Or because one thing I love the group that I work with and bring together is they don't see a zip code and rig up the pricing, which happens.
We don't allow that
all the time, right?
Yep.
You hear it all the time. But I do think there is an element of scale, that people do think, okay, this is a little, maybe the detail needs to be a little bit more, whatever the thing. I don't know. But the pricing was different, and that shocked me, and I felt really bad for the client.
But how lucky for the client to have you run interference on that, right? Because they don't know. They have no idea if it's fair or not. And we're not trying to save anybody money. I always tell people, we're not bread and water. We're a luxury. We're not in this business to save you money. However, it is our job to help be your guide.
Yes. And not spend your money unnecessarily, which is my biggest. I do not love wasteful things, right? So let's reuse that thing if we can.
Exactly.
But yeah, so it does it does happen, and we've got our finger on the pulse pretty well.
Yeah,
I feel like on the construction side.
We do.
But that furnishing part is such a shame because it is the pretty. Yeah. I mean, everything it really.
Have you thought
helps.
about going into because this is something we talk about, going into the contract and making all of that part of the contract?
In what way?
A certain amount of money is going to be spent on interiors in this project, and get that commitment up front? Or that's, for me, it feels a little weird, especially if you're working with another builder, because you don't have any control over that cost.
Right.
And so you don't want the client to unnecessarily commit to something that they won't be able to do. But it's almost like you need to know that furnishing this house is going to be X amount, and that should be set aside
for this.
I mean, I don't know, because is that protecting the client? I don't know.
I almost wonder if it is in a sense, because then when the builder comes with his things, then maybe they start to question, because they never question a builder.
Right.
But they question us a lot.
Right.
And I don't know if it's a man, because builders are men, and I don't know what that dynamic is, but we get it more than the builder. I've never seen pushback to the builder. Only.
Maybe there's so many variables with the build.
And it's harder to understand it.
And it's hard for us. We just have the answer.
Yeah, they're like, this is a couch,
right?
But it's
just easier. Maybe
the price is doubled, and what does that even mean? I have no idea. But here's your check.
Right.
I don't know, but we do talk about what that is. But I haven't gotten to the place where I require that money up front.
I don't know about upfront money, but just
I
a
think
commitment.
A lot of designers do.
In this, I think they do
too. They ask for like 80% of what's going to be spent to have that in their bank. So they're just doing that, which is really smart, and it does allow the client to, get
budget better. Yeah, to budget better.
Because you did say the check writing, the writing weary.
They get tired.
They do, and so that hemorrhaging, and I think sometimes people also they are just tired of spending. So you do get to this point in the project, halfway through or more, when like construction decisions are done and now it's time for the pretty. You've been just sort of tying it in, but now and then they're just done.
And if you have 80%, at least you can hit the big highlights. You might not have the layering or the great pieces of art, but you'll at least have, they're not going to move their IKEA furniture back in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. They
It
just
sort of
might not
protects
have
that.
this insane piece
Insane
quite yet.
art, yeah.
But they can
Makes
get that later, and that's fun. And but
have you ever had anyone not pay you?
the same gentleman who yelled.
Oh.
He held my last fee over something, and it was not on me. It was on a vendor, which is such a shame because I really loved that vendor, but I don't use them anymore because of the way that got handled. And that was so frustrating. Because it was like, and he did say, the only reason, this is the part Matt did here, the only reason I'm holding your fee, I know you did all the work and, we love that, but it's because it's the only thing I can hold over your head right now to get the other stuff fixed.
But they also had a money issue, so it was a way that they didn't have to write that last big check.
And that was the thing that I, again, won't do again, but I got into their money woes early on, and I didn't give them their last bill because I felt so bad about some of these other things. They had a wedding and all these things, right? So you're like, I'll just wait to give them the last bill because they're just getting dinged everywhere. And I shouldn't have. But at least now they have that and they feel like they got some redemption, I guess.
Lesson learned.
But have you?
I've never not been paid. I did have a really delayed payment. The client, wanted the best of everything, and we wanted her to have the best of everything. And I think the financial planner just said, we are now done. And so it just took a little while. But we just fell in love with her. She is a really important person in our life, and we knew that it was going to be made right, and we just let it go.
Okay.
And then it was made right.
Was that your fee or for product?
It was for product. So it was a lot, remodel and labor and all of that kind of stuff, but it was really okay.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Because we've talked about this, 100% you get before you even purchase a single thing, right? But sometimes with the clients, and that's what's sometimes you get on the other side of that, and you're like, you know what? We're going to move forward. We don't want to lose this couch because it's the only one, and so before we get your money, we're just going to buy it. And
this was really more labor for the remodel, like the finishing up of the remodel. Yeah. The last sort of payment of that, which is your last percentage or whatever, and it was all okay. It was handled with a lot of love and respect and kindness, and we understood it very well. And it was, of course, made right, which we knew it would be.
Yeah, all day long. I completely understand people's financial situations. Yeah, more than anything. So
sometimes those things
nice
happen.
When.
And so another thing about road clients is sometimes they want to do something that maybe their aunt or their sister or their neighbor has said that they should include. And here's how I handle that. Especially if I think it's like just really not the right thing to do. I'll say, okay, you can do that. We'll do that. Totally get it. But I want you to write on this napkin right now while we're sitting here, I will not tell anyone that Rainey Richardson thought that doing X, Y, and Z was a good idea. I will make sure that everyone knows it was my idea. And by the time I'm to the end, it's like, okay, I'm not going to do it.
Oh my God.
But I'm like, I cannot paint that wall black. Like I get that it's a thing now. It's not a thing for you. And here's why.
It's not a thing for you.
But
not
it's
even
your
it's not a
house.
thing for me. It's like, it's not a thing for you.
But it's your house. And I respect that. However, so that's kind of another rogue element sometimes you just have to rein in.
You have to rein in.
You do.
The reining in. Because that happens. And again, I think it is that fatigue. And so people, and that, why now I'm fee-based and not hourly, is people stop inviting. Yeah. Would you like to come for dinner? People stop bringing you in for meetings.
Yep.
And they bring their family or friends who have done this project.
Who are also designers.
In their street.
Right.
Yeah. Because they watched an episode of something. So then they stop bringing you in, and then you show up and you're like, ooh, what happened?
Yeah, what
And they're
happened
like,
here?
Have you ever fired a client or let a client go?
Yes. And I think that is it's kind of like when you become an executive in an office, you have to learn to fire people, even though it's very uncomfortable. Um, it is important that you learn that skill to protect yourself as a human being, not to protect your firm, not to protect your reputation, to protect your own sanity, your own mental health, your own, just your own
Okay, I'm going to talk
goodness.
to the camera right now. I hope you heard what she just said because that was freaking huge. Not your firm, but yourself. Because we think of our reputation at all cost. And so we will bend over backwards and do things we would never do just because we don't want our name in somebody's mouth in a bad way. So that is so impactful. And I'm really glad you said that.
But I think that also comes with being a 50-something-year-old woman too, right? Where you go, this is keeping me up at night. This is affecting my family time. This is because we are empaths. A lot of designers are empaths. We feel things very deeply. And I think sometimes you have to cut that cord to protect yourself. It's only happened a couple of times. But it was not without very, very, very deep thinking.
Yeah. And I mean, going through
all of it,
so many things up into getting to that point.
Rereading all the emails, reading the text messages, learning where you could have done things differently. But sometimes, because we're all, again, human beings, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And you keep pulling that along. Like you said, behind the boat, you're just hanging on for dear life. And sometimes for your own well-being, you have to let go.
Because they're going to beat your shit up.
Yep.
I have one that comes to mind, and we actually parted on good ways, but she was an executive and had recently stopped working to stay home with her kids, and she just fell in love with the process of redoing her house. And
that's okay.
That was, so she just kept back. I mean, it was as if she was my associate. So I was like, no matter what, she would question it or bring something else. And it was no longer a design that I was doing. And I just so with her, I just did say, I think you've got a knack for this. And I think you should run with it and not pay me anymore.
Yeah.
And it was the most liberating thing in the world. And I will say, her review was probably the nicest I've ever received.
Yeah.
Because like we were talking in another episode about one client learning that she was an artist in the midst of a home remodel because of the upheaval. This woman realized that she was actually really good at this, and she had been a banker before, so it never was like a translating normal thing. And she
awakened something in her.
It did, and she loved it, and she got to do it, and she's very proud of her house. And but it was, I mean, hard to finally come to that. And when I got my head around how it was going to go, that it wasn't going to be a fight, it didn't need to be. It was genuinely like a mutual respect, and that's all any of us want.
That is respect.
So just respect me. I was all day long. So that was one. Yeah.
Another thing that comes to mind is when you're working with a client and their home's going to be very beautiful, and they share the design with a client or with another family member, not a client, a neighbor or another family member,
right.
And they poo-poo the whole design. Well, I wouldn't do this. Well, I wouldn't have that. Well, I wouldn't spend that on this. The sabotager. Have you ever had a client that had a sabotager and you knew it was happening, but you didn't know? You just want to say that. You want to say they're sabotaging you. They don't want you to have nice things.
And they also are going to they're going to do this if you're going to try and get fit, or they're going to try, they're the people who are trying to drag you down.
That's it.
And they're going to just be that voice in your head. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's mean. It's just not nice because this person...
Have you ever had that with a client?
Yes, of course.
Me
and it's
too.
Just where you're like, that's not a nice friend then. Mm-hmm. Let's take this to somebody who's a nice friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or let's not. It's like telling your kids' names. A lot of people don't tell what their babies' names are going to be.
So they can't get any input.
So they can't get any of the input because people feel like they have a say. And I know I'm sure our clients do say, I don't know, which one do you like? You know, I have a client they had the presentations and they left him out on the island for the family to see, and he was so excited and all that. And people did have opinions, and he's, his thing was like, you're the professional at the end, but this is what a few things that were said. I'm like,
And that's
okay, and I can respect that. They were here.
I'll
too.
take that under advisement
Absolutely,
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's brought to us in that capacity, absolutely. But if it's sort of this other vein,
Because the client loved it when they left, and now they don't love it for no other reason than there was this one person who got ugly in their ear.
But do you think sometimes, and I used to see this when I did hair, women would say, oh, I would love to do that, but my husband doesn't really like my hair short. And the husband doesn't give a shit. They use it. And I think some clients might and that's okay, might use it because they aren't comfortable saying that because we're so, it is like showing your baby. You're like, look, and they're like,
and we tell clients, if you want to blurt out, I hate that, that is so valuable because we have wasted no time. Yes. And it's not, I didn't make that tile. I picked that tile for you.
It's my favorite. We have, when we do the selection meeting, right? And I'm like, this is dead to us. Oh, hideous. Take it out of the way.
Like, or they take a look at, I had a client look at a piece of fabric and she goes, all I can see is a uterus. And I was like, oh God. And you don't, so here's the thing.
Georgia O'Keeffe is here? No.
We're not talking about this anymore. It is literally going somewhere where you can't see it ever again because you will never unsee a uterus. I mean,
are you an obstetrician? Would this work well in your office?
That's it.
I've gone to slap this.
But I'm so glad she said it.
I'm so glad. But don't you see things I see things.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't unsee them. And sometimes I say what I see, which is really bad because it's always inappropriate because I'm an inappropriate girl. But a slab,
Me
gorgeous
too, right there
slab.
with you.
And there's penis. It was a slab of dicks.
And I had a... Did you just say slab of dicks?
I got the picture. And thank God that client and I had a ball and she was on the same wavelength and she saw it and we laughed. The poor guy at Omni was dying.
Dicks in
Somebody's got a slab of dicks.
Now. Yep. They just do.
Yeah.
Oh my God, and they're probably so proud of it.
In a bachelor pad. But
unseeing.
You can't, and that's a natural piece, right? Yeah. So you can't not see it. But we won't be doing that.
I love
or
that.
I won't be doing that. Yeah.
I love that. So the whole thing with rogue clients is there are the very few.
They are few.
Like that go so rogue that it's rogue.
That you can't reel them in.
And then the other ones are, we see where we've made the mistake. We clean up our act. We tighten up our contracts. We change the way we talk about things. Mm-hmm. And at the end, our whole goal is for people to live in a place where they live, work, and celebrate that they are obsessed with.
Yes.
And we really don't care what the neighbor thinks or Aunt Jane thinks or lover. Don't care.
But but we have to remember, I do sometimes, because I try really hard to say I don't have an ego in this, and I do. We do. You don't want to hear somebody say they don't like your stuff. But I want to also leave, and when they have people over, they're so proud that backsplash, that when they might have gone, we might have brought them this thing, and then they're like, can we try another thing? And then they find the thing. And that does happen. And that is their prized thing. Yeah. And that's beautiful. And it's hard because you want to have brought that.
That's right. But we got there eventually.
And
the love is there.
Love what they've, so it works sometimes when they do kind of take that little detour off of our design. But if you are thinking you might be the only one or, you're not in a boat of your own, you're not. We have all experienced those clients and many more. And to the clients who think you might be a rogue client, just have a conversation.
Pick up the phone, have a sit-down meeting, say, am I a rogue client?
Please don't go shopping at Home Depot for plumbing on the weekend when your designer needs a break and she doesn't need that text. Wait till Monday.
Because spoiler alert, the Dryden faucet at Home Depot is not the same Dryden faucet from Ferguson. It's just not the same faucet.
Mechanism's not the same. You will be very sad about that.
So
sorry, Home Depot, but we're not.
So if you are a designer working with a rogue client, pick up the phone, mash the pause button, as I like to say, talk it out, get on the same page. And if you can't, it's really okay to part ways. Just do it in a respectful way that you don't lose sleep. And, you did everything you can to protect the relationship, even if the project doesn't get finished the way you want it.
Yeah, because sometimes we can't make everything how we want it. And I think it's important to know that you can step away from these because some of them are unhealthy relationships you get into. And it's not okay to stay there just for the photography or the
It's exactly
paycheck. Because trust me, once you let that one go, the big one will come after. It's wild.
It's 100.
Wild.
It'll make space for something bigger. And you have to protect yourself, and you will attract healthier clients if you are able to recognize and have the guts to maybe let a client go, or if you're a client, to let a rogue designer go. That can also happen. We know that happens and that we're not perfect.
So if you are an artist and you want to send us your art, or if you want to be behind us and have us try and match our outfits in flowers to your beautiful one of a kinds, we would love to showcase it. We are both huge fans of all kinds of art, as we hope that we will be displaying back here, but just know that that's it. So, and if you're listening and you want to pop over to Instagram or YouTube and just see what we're talking about with the art and stuff, please do, because these guys definitely deserve a little look-see. Fantastic.
100% love this art. And if you want to chat with Casey and I, you can reach out to us at hello@reframingdesign.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Rainey Richardson Interiors. We would just love to hear from you.
And I'm Casey again, and I am Cassandra_brand_interiors on Instagram. And again, hello at Reframing. We'd love to hear any questions or, your own experiences with road clients. Please share.
Send us your road client experiences.
We realize it's not a always talked about conversation. And so we thank you for letting us sort of share some of our stuff.
That's a good point. It's uncomfortable for us to share some of these stories and experiences, but it's so important. And the whole reason we're doing this podcast, it's not all rainbows and butterflies and HGTV. It is real. And we are human, and we do the best we can every day.
Yeah. So go do your best, whatever that is.
Whatever that is. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
And listening.